here we go. So it's another Friday night paddle video. We are end of the first week of July, no wind, 6-7 o'clock, tide's about 2 hours from being low and absolutely glass flat. So we're going to take this opportunity and we are going to fly around Liu. You may have seen from other videos that I have this charity marine conservation situation going on with the Ghost Seas project. I will put that at the bottom. This is one of those paddles I like to do as a research paddle, and it's always good for trying to spot and potentially track seals, which is part of an ongoing project that we have, and we'll talk about that another time. Equipment wise, we're going on the old NSP 11-foot beaten to paddleboard. Still a rigid, but it's had a lot of work. Not the fancy straight line 12-footer that took us to home. One thing you might notice paddle wise, we are not using the full carbon fibre super expensive paddle on this trip. We're going to use a starboard carbon plastic hybrid, and that's because I'm likely to smash myself into a couple of rocks or need to push off rocks as we go through the shallower sections around this little island. Got the Decline Hydro Pack and the Cascade hat, which I'll talk about later on because it's a really good hat, surprisingly. I don't get excited about hats very often, but we're probably going to get excited about this one. I've just looked over the top and pretty much the water is so flat, the tide is so low that we are probably going to get to not only go round Liu, but also get to go to the Cascades, which is a set of rocks even further out. Again, more seal potential. We'll give that a go. We'll see if we can get to those. Hopefully it'll be a nice paddle. Okay, so here we are, we're at the water. You just saw how flat and beautifully calm it is. It looks like sheet glass all the way out. You can't see it from here, but the Cascades are all the way out there, probably 1.5 miles out, maybe a little bit less. But Liu's up around there. Got the pack on, got the hat on. Basically we're ready to go. So we're going to jump on and assuming we don't dry dock, we're going to get going. So we haven't really even got 200 yards off the shore yet, but I just wanted to stop and show you how clear this water is. Absolutely incredible. I know it's shallow, obviously as it gets deeper it gets harder to see, but you can literally see fish swimming below you. We're probably 5-6 feet of water, but the weed is perfectly visible. Everything's just so clear. So we're a bit further out now, a little bit around the corner. Deeper water, there's shallower spots, but we've basically hit the deeper water now. So 10 foot in some places, 12 foot. It's still incredibly clear, you can still see the bottom. Over there, that's Liu, and then you've got the causeway through there. Now the tide is dropping. I don't anticipate it's going to drop all the way out, so it probably won't dry, but we probably won't be able to get all the way around the island that way, so we'll go around and then go back. The Cascades are all the way out there. So what we'll do is when we get to the tip at the back end of the Liu, we'll have a quick look around the corner, see what the situation's like. We may dart over to the Cascades, depending on the tides. There's actually a snorkeler over there, spearfishing maybe. Yeah, this is just Friday night, sunny, calm, clear, no one around apart from that guy. Okay, so I haven't even made it where I thought I was going to go, to the tip of the back of Liu. I'm just taking a look at the Cascades here now and just looking at how clear of an opportunity we've got to go there with minimal effort. It's not very often you get to paddle there. Normally it's a boat trip in the little dinghy. So sod's law, obviously if we go this way the seals will be around the other side of the island. If we go that way they'll be out there. So we'll take the risk, we'll go to the Cascades. It is stunning out here. So we go, Cascade Rocks, in the rocks. You can see how it stretches all the way out there. 1, 2, behind, 3, 4, 5, and then a couple of smaller ones all to the side. Hanwha Lighthouse in the distance over there. We've paddled there a couple of times. We'll do another video when we go next time, I think. But out here, again, relatively shallow water, it's not particularly deep. But outside of these channels, it gets down to 60, 70 meters. So very quick drop off. It's basically shipwreck heaven out here. The amount of boats that have come to grief on these rocks alone that you can see is enormous. Over 200 in the last 200 years alone. Hence the reason for the lighthouse. It's hot out here, there's a little bit of swell. No seals yet, we'll do a loop of this one and we'll see if we can see any up on the rocks. It's getting towards low tide now, so if they're going to be on the rocks, there's a chance they'll be there. Yeah, that way, just behind those rocks, there's literally no land until you reach Florida or somewhere on the eastern seaboard. That's just the North Atlantic. Cuba down there behind, well, maybe Florida's more down that way. Cuba, Caribbean down behind the lighthouse, and then maybe even New York and that lot up there. But 4,500 miles of nothing, essentially. There's a couple of yachts on the horizon. Other than that, it's just me and you. So I got distracted by what I thought was a seal surfacing over by this centre set of rocks. So I just ran the channel quick to see if there was anything around. I haven't been able to spot him again. So I'll do a little loop, see if there's anything on the rocks. It's kind of crazy to be this far out to sea and be in 3 foot of water. Seems strange. Project I've had going on for 2 years or so is trying to figure out why seals are interested in setting up shop and laying around on certain rocks. We've got colonies on the east coast up around Herm, we've got colonies on the west coast that seem a bit more widespread, and we know they're on the Hamwell behind me. That's really not an ideal place for them. Whereas this group of rocks, the Cascades, or I call them the Cascades, they've probably got a nautical name, but unless you're on a boat it doesn't really matter. It seems like a much more hospitable area or habitable area for them to be. There's a lot more shelter, it's a little bit more out of the swell than the Hanwha, and it doesn't quite, well, I mean, it's protected from Liu over there a little bit as far as sort of northerly winds and stuff, and yet I've got no records and have never seen any seals out on these rocks. So we've gone as far as literally taking photos of rocks that seals do lay on consistently and trying to match them with rocks out here to try and figure out if it's because the rocks aren't suitable, or if they just haven't made their way here yet, or if they're, for some reason, they prefer a certain set of rocks. But because it's not often that you get the chance to actually land here, I'm going to take a quick run over the island, just see if I can find any evidence of seals in any way, and then we'll paddle back in. So we're up here on the top of the main first island. You can see it's nice and flat. There's some sheltered areas. Obviously seals need to be able to get back into the water rapidly if they get scared for any reason. So this side here probably not going to be particularly suitable due to the size of the rocks. You get these little beaches here that I've just pulled up on. Those I would consider to be fairly useful for hauling out on, but they are quite rocky. There's nothing particularly sandy here. Fall and smash my arse. But it seems like a size of rocks that could handle a sizable colony of seals. We know out here, I mean, I say we know, but best guess. Oh, hello. Just fall and break my ankle. Best guess is probably West Coast seal population is somewhere around the 10 or 15 mark. Nothing massive. Whether that grows or not, potential, I guess, but we get a lot of washed up seals on this coast throughout the winter, so those that don't make it obviously don't contribute to the population numbers, and those that do make it don't always get put back this side of the island. Sometimes they go back to Herm, so they wouldn't necessarily always rejoin this colony on the west coast. So it's difficult to know. This area feels like it should be riddled with seals. It really does. It's far enough away from land that nobody is going to trouble them, apart from maybe me. There's not too much boat traffic around here, but they just don't seem to have populated it here. So we're going to have to get the drone up, do a bit of mapping, and then try and relate that to some aerial photos of where they do sit on the Hamwar. It may be that the seals that are on this west coast are more used to being in the water and therefore don't want to spend as much time on land. Clearly seals need some land time, but maybe they've habituated a little bit more to being in the water, and that's just the way they want to operate. Again, Guernsey, we don't get them up on the beaches like you would in other places, Cornwall and Wales and wherever else they are. They stick to rocks and they stick away from people, and they seem more than happy to carry on like that. They don't, unless they're in obvious distress, they're very rarely up on a local beach. Our coast road runs along the beach. I mean, it's so close to the beach. At high tide, it's essentially touching it. So it may be the road noise and things like that puts them off as well. There's houses all the way along the coast. It's a fairly densely populated coastline, so it's possible that it's just not somewhere the seals really want to be. Which again means that places like this far offshore, should probably be more used to them. But Leo's back over there, so we are going, I guess we'll head for the north coast of Leo. Might do a quick whip round the back, and then we'll have a look at the causeway, or we'll come back through this way again. So here we are on the back end of Leo Island. You can pretty much not even see land from here. So if you ever wanted to travel back in time, this is what it would have been like a couple of million years ago probably, although maybe water level would have been different. Oyster catchers, again, noisy as hell. Some seagulls, some cormorants. I'm getting all steamed up, I can't see anything. But yeah, this is as close to a time machine as you can get in this life. So just behind me there, you can see that point. That's basically the end of Leo. Considering how flat calm it was everywhere else, there's 1.5 foot of genuine groundswell out here, and you can sort of see it sloshing about at the base of that rock. This place picks up 20-foot swells straight off the North Atlantic, wind assisted. Out here in the middle of a storm would be horrendous. Direct west swell, direct west wind, something like that. It would absolutely be horrendous. Millions of years that rock has probably stood there, just taken a battering. So here's the back bay of Liu. There's a lot of things I could say about Liu, but it's probably best to sum that up in another video. But essentially, it's always been that kind of shadowy, mystical island off the coast that was haunted or had witches, or the monastery and the murders that happened there. Just gives it a bit of a spooky tone. It's now pretty much off limits to most people. You can come over here at certain states of the tide for an hour or two at a time. There's a swimming pool that everybody likes to give a go every now and again. Swimming pool, natural pool. But yeah, generally it's pretty much left alone. And you know, this side out here on the west coast takes a lot of weather. The inside not so much, but everything about it is natural. So the grass is that really nice, thick, soft, moist, like peaty grass that really feels natural under your feet. Not that fake lawn stuff that you see everywhere else. The rocks are alive. There's life pretty much everywhere. And then birds, lots and lots of birds. Also things like, again, we'll see this in other videos, but things like skeletons. You actually see bird skeletons, rabbit skeletons, stuff that's just been left to decompose because nobody's there sweeping it away, or it's not making the place look untidy. It's just natural, the way things are supposed to be. So yeah, if you ever find yourself in Guernsey, Liu's a good couple of hours out. Safer by land, obviously. So I've come around the corner. We're now on the north coast of Liu. You can see the house up there. And this is the causeway. I wasn't sure with the extra time we took around the Cascades whether we'd still be able to get through the causeway. But it looks doable. It might be shallow, there might be a little bit of rock hopping. But I think I can see a channel all the way through to the other side where we started. So we'll give it a go. We're back to still water again now. We're out of the waves and the swell at the back. We're in the shadow now of the island. Again, look how calm it is. The tide is actually rushing through that causeway, so that'll give us a little bit of a poke. It's getting pretty shallow through here. I'm not sure we're going to make it all the way without having to get off, but if we can, there's just one tiny little gap over there. It's probably, I don't know, 3 foot deep, with the odd rock that just pops up out of nowhere to grab your fin on the way past. Back to being able to see the fish and everything else though. See if we can get through. It's basically pretty much dry. Probably a paddle blade's depth. This is the shallowest part of the causeway, so it's understandable. We just need to see if we can make it through. I've got a really shallow fin actually on this board, more of a keel fin. It's a fish. You can't see it. So it does give me a bit of room to move, but I'm just kind of nervously waiting for it to drag at some point. That's what we've got to get through. There you go. Dry. It's only about 50 yards, we'll walk it. Stuff like this is why this particular board, this NSP Cruise 11 foot, gets used a lot more regularly than like my proper distance board or even that fancy Oxbow thing. You know, you don't really want to be worrying about scratching things, and you don't want to be putting massive dents and cracks in the rails of boards that are designed to go fast. And so you always run the risk of the tide catching you out or something when you paddle around here. And so this board is perfect for that, because as nice as it is, I'm not too fussed if I scratch it or crack it. It's pretty tough. Anyway, we've got some water now. So we'll get back a moving. This is what a lot of people do on a paddleboard, they just float. It's kind of dull. So when we started out, I genuinely didn't think the water could get any flatter than it was. But have a look at that. That is as flat as water gets. Absolute glass. Sun's going down. We're almost back in. Big thanks to Dakine for keeping me comfortable, keeping the sun off my head, and with the hydro pack keeping me hydrated. I've basically done my 2 litres just before we come in, so 2 litres is a good amount of water in that pack. 6 litres for all your sunglasses and everything else. It's not heavy, it fits perfectly, it's just a really solid product. If you can get your hands on one, I suggest you do. Red Bull Spec, thanks for keeping me not blind, or for keeping me from going blind, and allowing me to see directly through this water with the polarization. So I'm going to get in, get packed up, go home, and I will see you for whatever the next thing we do is.